Okay, so now we'll look at the range function, which is quite an important function in Python. We'll also discuss Booleans and the if statement today. So the range function is one of the most important functions in Python. It's used extensively in loops and also to generate a list of numbers that are in a particular sequence. So the range function itself is just range, and then in the parentheses you type in the starting point and the stopping point. Obviously Python is not going to go to 10, it stops before that. So but the range function itself, if you type in and press enter, it's just going to print out the same thing again. But if you want to see what these numbers are, you have to use the list function. So so here I've placed in the range function within the list function, as you can see, and then you can explicitly see what these numbers are. Now you can also skip numbers. So if you type in 2, you'll skip 2 numbers, and after 0 you can see that 2 is printed out, and then 4, 6, 8, right? If you want to skip 3 numbers, you can do that. So you can this third number that you enter is going to be the step that it takes. So here it's taking 3 steps, and then printing out 3 after 0, and so on. You can print out any list you want. This is just giving you an example of a longer list. So numbers from 0 to 50, and then you're skipping 2 numbers. So it's all even numbers between 0 and 50. Obviously it doesn't go to 50. It doesn't print out 50. If you want to print out 50, you can change this to 51. Okay, so let's look at if statements. We'll look at Booleans in a bit more detail today. We'll continue talking about the if statement in the next class. So the if statement, again, so whenever you are writing a program and you want to make a decision, right? So in everyday life we always make decisions using if and else, right? If I do this, this is going to happen. If I don't do that, then that's going to happen. So whenever you have a decision structure in your program, you use the if statement, and this is used in almost every language, every programming language. And so this is a simple example of how you would make a decision. If it's cold outside, you would wear a coat. If not, then you'll make some other decision, right? So so the syntax or the format of the if statement is the following. You type in if. This is a built-in function. The condition is what you want, and then the statement is whatever this is the statement block. Now this can be anything in Python, whatever. That depends on the program. We'll look at a few examples. But an important thing in Python is the structure, is the indentation. You notice that the indentation over here, there's space, right? These can be any number of spaces. But by default in IDEs, if you press enter over here, Python is going to automatically indent the statement. And notice the colon over here. This is very important, right? If you don't type this in, you'll get a syntax error. Now, when does the if condition end? As soon as you get rid of the indentation, right? If you add something over here without indentation, Python will assume that you want the if statement to end at this point. So indentation is quite important. You have to be careful with indentation in Python. Now, relational operators are something, are operators that we typically use with if statements, whether x is greater than a. So this is the syntax. If you want to check if one number is greater than the other, you'll use this greater sign, the less sign. This is greater than equal. This is less than equal. Now, if you want to check if 2 numbers or 2 quantities or 2 strings are equal to each other, you have to use 2 equal signs, not 1. Okay, so be careful with that. 1 equal sign is used for assignment, and for comparison of 2, to check whether they're equal, you have to use 2 equal signs. If you want to check if an object, if a number or a string is not equal to another number or string, you have to use this exclamation and equal sign. So this is typically used for not equal in other languages also. So here's an example. Let's say you say x equal 1, y equal 0, and I'm quite sure you're typing along when I'm explaining these, so because it's useful when you type in and double check. So you can see that x is greater than y, right? So this is going to return true. Y is greater than x is going to return false, because 0 is obviously less than x. So these are called Booleans. They take you either get a true or false for the value. So this is important. Whenever this condition is true, the if block is going to be executed. So if this is true, if sales is this is just a sample program. So if sales is greater than 50,000, you get a bonus. So this is the indented part. This is the block of the if statement. So let's look at some logical operators. So when we deal with multiple if conditions, then we want to, when we use, even with Google searches, right? So the Boolean algebra is built into Google searches also. We use the and, or, we typically don't, but and or are very common operators that we use in our searches also. And so there's a particular way the and or conditions work. If let's say you have two conditions that you want to compare, if both of these are true, then the and will be true. So the and operation is like multiplication, and the or operation is like addition. So if any one of these is true, this condition will be true. The not condition is just the opposite. If it's false, condition 1 is false, you get true, and then if it's true, you get a false. So here is what we call a truth table of Booleans. So this is these are they can be different types of truth tables. So these are the basic ones that, let's say you have so this is just these two columns. You can assume that like the input values, and these are the output values. So so these are, you assume different values for these: true, true, false, false, right? And this is true, false, just to take all combinations. And then you can see that the not is just the opposite of this. The not of true is false, the not of, again, true is false, and then the not of false is true. And then the and condition is like multiplication. So you can assume that this is like 1, true is like 1, and false is like 0. So 1 multiplied by 1 is 1, 1 multiplied by 0 is 0, which is false, and 0 multiplied by 1 is also 0, and 0 multiplied by 0 is 0. So you only get true when both of these conditions are true. Similarly, P or Q is like addition. So you can see 1 plus 1, because we're just talking about Booleans. 1 plus 1 is also going to give you 1. So that's true. So this is again 0 plus 1 is true, 1 plus 0 is true, and 0 plus 0 is false. So you only get false when both of these are false. Okay, so this whole thing is built into Python, all these truth tables. And this is of an object of type bool. This is an object type, like we have object types of float and integers. So this is an object type in Python as well. So if you have we saw examples also, right? So these are just some other examples. X is 2, y is 3. So since it's a variable, it's a data type, you can store it in variables also. So if you say variable x is less than y, so this, if you print it out, it's going to give you true. Okay, so in some cases you have multiple conditions that you want to check. As I said, when we have if conditions, we typically have multiple conditions that we want to check. So we use the or operators quite frequently in if statements to check if, in this case, for example, the state is Maryland or Virginia, and so on. So you can use these in any combinations you want, with the not also. Okay, so let's look at this example, a simple example where you write a program that asks a user for an input using the input function, and then checks whether the number is even or odd. So so this is the program. You type. So we're expecting the user is going to enter a float. So we use the input function. This is gonna, when you run this, this is gonna ask the user for a number. When the user enters the number, now you have an if condition. Right? Now the if condition checks whether the remainder. Remember we talked about this. This person sign is the remainder function. If the remainder is 0, the number is going to be even, and if the remainder is not 0, then the number is going to be odd. So there are only two conditions. The else block is the other condition that exists. If the number is not even, it has to be odd. So you don't have to put it in a condition over here. So the output is shown over here. You enter a number 10, and since the remainder is 0 with 2, you get the answer as the number is even.